Slovakia. If the future on the Danube doesn't surprise you, then you will be surprised by the past, or the present and its plentiful flavours. Be surprised by the easternmost Gothic cathedral, oriental spas and historic strolls. And if you're not surprised by the UFO above a bridge, for sure you'll be surprised that I'm telling you. Slovak cities will surprise you.
Dobrá? OK, no. Želám všetkým dobrý deň.
Wishing you all good morning. I've been given the honor of opening the second day of the conference today, after a very demanding and exhausting last night, all day long agenda. We only have a morning part today. We've found out yesterday what's coming up for in the near future, what to be prepared for. We've learned that European directives are going to be revisited, that we have the option to say what's bothering us, how to make purchasing more efficient, how to make a contribution to what new directive is going to look like. We've had a very lively debate on the issues of under-threshold contracts. Today the topic should be some kind of vision into the future, what's coming, what will not avoid us. For about 5 years we've been discussing how we need to make everything electronic and digital. I think we've already passed this topic. Now we are opening new challenges, and that is the use of AI. Optimization of processes, whether that of purchasing or control, improved planning, use of various managerial and commercial instruments, introducing professionalization, because we see that our work is demanding, requiring continuous education and support. We cannot, as we say, remain sleeping on our laurels. Yesterday was a day I enjoyed very much. I think it was very interesting indeed, and that this conference will have a major contribution and benefit to us all, and it will also show how important it is to cooperate, communicate at various levels. PPO, the procurers, contracting authorities, we are all part of the entire world or ecosystem, and we need to continuously talk. I'd like to hereby thank Mr. Chairman, all of our foreign guests, and all staff of the PPO Slovakia who have participated in organizing this conference, and also those who remained at the office providing for the operation of the office, of the Bureau. I'd like to thank you all for participation in this conference actively. You've pitched in its creation. It was a very flexible talk about the issues at hand, what's coming. I'd like to and hope that this conference will become a regular affair, that we can meet at this magical pre-Christmas time 1 year from now, and we will maybe say 5 years from now that this has been the 5th anniversary of the PPO Christmas conference, and we will be convinced that as high as we've put the limit to achieve, the goalpost for achievement, we will be exceeding them from 1 year to another, because that's what's important, to share opinions, experience, and discuss problems and issues in public procurement. In conclusion, I'd like to congratulate one particular participant of this conference who is living today of having an important anniversary personally. We all know her well, whether us at the office or you here in this particular room, since she's been the regular attendee of these conferences. So on behalf of the PPO and all of your behalf, I'd like to wish Madam Shluchova all the best, much health and happiness and success in her work for her birthday. Now I'd like to hand the floor over to our next important guest, our Deputy Minister, who will open up the upcoming topic area as an expert. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends. It is an honor for me to be standing here upon these boards and talking to you from this position. One great thank you from me to the Public Procurement Office, specifically Mr. Chairman Kubovic, for excellent cooperation during the current year, where together we were able to amend the Public Procurement Act. Together we've negotiated this amendment at the European Commission level, and I'm happy that these above-standard relations we enjoy, will be able to continue building upon those during the coming years. Artificial intelligence as a major activist and catalyst. Let us begin with digital transformation, because that's something we're trying to achieve here, have been already achieving for the past decade, really. That's a point at which we can provide higher level of transparency, higher level of efficiency, at the end of the day also some predictability. AI as a phenomenon of the time, a revolutionary technology support evolution in our society, has been a topic for the Slovak Republic as well, because during 2019, during our OECD presidency, we've introduced principles and frameworks for AI at the OECD level, which together we've updated throughout this year. So with regard to AI, Slovakia does already have some experience. It's been quite vocal in the international fora about this topic, and from the governance level we shall be moving soon into the application practice. And from my perspective, based on the platform I've already mentioned, that we have a really above-standard, excellent relationship between two institutions. It seems to me as the public procurement sector, one of the traditional sectors, as a very good connection with so dynamically evolving technology such as AI. Next year, there is a national informatization of public administration concept under preparation, pending, a part of which will be also AI. It will be presented in the third to fourth quarter. I don't want to be hesitating, meanwhile, supporting other parts of the public administration to be supporting them through even small applications to support individual segments. It is necessary to say that during negotiations with the European Commission about our PP Act amendment, we could have said that Slovakia is one of the most transparent countries. Based on that, we can say that Transparency International this year has created an application, a web portal, where, based on transparency through the PP Act, use of EU funds, it is possible to track down every single euro, how it's been used, and to what final beneficiary it has been transferred. This was not possible in the past, and within our transparency, we've been presenting unstructured PDF files. Previously, there were some tools, but these were very difficult to use. So it was very lengthy, which took days in the past. Today, it takes mere minutes or seconds. So that's why, as a priority, the conservative sector of public procurement, which does have in it some trends and innovations, but has been living in a very extremely rapidly growing potential of AI. And at our ministry, where we perceive the added value for AI in PP, for instance, we have various regulations and directives that are unchanged, that are publicly available. Please, you can go ahead and create a small model and train the model on these regulations, acts, decrees, and directives, so we can give to the contracting authorities and procurers some kind of chatbot. I don't want to demean it down to a regular chatbot, but some tool to be able for them to be able to approach, ask, and if they will not discover some lack of information be fulfilled, then they can approach PPO with an official request to obtain guidance. I see high potential in using AI in analysis of submitted bids, as we have it in our IT sector, where we have deficit of ICT specialists. I understand the deficit of these specialists in PP world. This sector is also suffering with a lack of experts. So we need to ease off overburdening administrative, make it easier, make it the work of our public procurers much easier. And all these AI instruments can make that happen. We can also discuss transparency and decision-making practice. Once we already have all responses and decisions of PPO, these are all unstructured data. But through models, doesn't have to be a major global level model, could be a smaller model as well, but I'm simply glad that through the position of Mr. Chairman, I can see a debate partner about this, so we could launch together this initiative. And implementation of this module is something I see as a great added value for decision-making. That's where decision-making practice it varies to a greater extent. We need further guidelines to increase decision-making predictability and thus becoming more predictable in the overall. So maybe we could perceive some trends from rest of Europe, and I expect there's only one act in Slovakia, but the trends in between ICT, construction, health sector, supplies, there are different trends there. But good practice with the use of AI could be interconnectable among these various sectors, much more transparent as a result. That's why it makes me happy. I can be standing up on here on these boards, and I'm expecting with a great enthusiasm what's coming next year, and look forward to continue cooperating with the PPO because the cooperation we've had thus far this year has been really above standard, excellent. And I thank you for the opportunity to be speaking to you from this place, and I wish you a nice and productive day.
Dobrý deň.
Good morning from my position again. I will be your host today of our distinguished panelists. I'd like to thank once again, especially two very distinguished individuals. To Mr. Deputy Minister, State Secretary Ivan Ivanchin, for his support in his person that his ministry has been providing us. It's the MIRI Ministry, Ministry of Investment, supporting the PPO during the difficult year we've had. During which we've been tackling the e-forms issues and archaic systems at our PPO. Finally, we can see some light at the end of the tunnel out of the IT medieval times, I would say, starting to believe in an IT future. So really the Public Procurement Office and organizations using its services will be able to move forward with a greater speed. Now, the second person I'd like to very much thank is Mark Christopher Schmidt from the European Commission, from DG GROW, who's been helping us tremendously from the side of the Commission. Thank you really how Commission has approached Slovakia and our PPO on the issues of e-forms. Thank you once again very much. So we will be now having some presentation. My guests, panelists, will have presentation. The first one will be Mark Christopher speaking about the e-forms project and another major project of the European Union, the BPDS. And then he would speak about the electronization in Albania from Ronald, how Albania in AI and BI, how they are progressing and what can be done. And then Matthew Gahan would follow from OECD. How do they see the future of public procurement? And Mr. Sedlak then would be sharing with us the view of Slovak contractors, suppliers, what the opportunities and possibilities are there. How do they view the rapidly growing IT sector in public procurement? So it makes me happy, and now I'd like to give the floor to Mark Christopher for his presentation on his slide, and later I will join in for the discussion. Thank you.
Dobrý den. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So today I will speak about the public procurement data space, where we are at this point in time, and also what we currently cover, what we currently do with the public procurement data space, but also a little bit to look into the future, what we plan to do. Maybe the question, why do we need something like the public procurement data space? At EU level, we of course have tenders electronic daily, where we have roughly 20% of the... How can I go to the next slide? So it would be actually the next slide, but it's not a problem. Ah, perfect, perfect. Thank you, no worries. So, why do we need the PPDS? The PBDS is important because on Tender Electronic Dailies, or TED, how we usually call it, we have only 20% of the data. And 80% of the data is in various formats available in the systems of the member states. And we have roughly 250,000 buyers. At least we think it is like this. We use this number for a long time, but we don't actually know. They spend roughly 2 trillion euros every single year in public procurement in important sectors like infrastructure, education, health, defense, waste, etc. Maybe who is a buyer in this room? Out of curiosity, can you raise your hand? Who's a buyer? A few? Okay. Most of them. It's you actually structure the way on how Europe works, because you procure literally everything that is necessary to keep the infrastructure of your country. So the idea of the PBDS is to gather all this information so that we have everybody has easy access to the actual data. It will help improve the monitoring, and I know that especially the buyers you will get in the future, not only now, but in the future, you will have much, much more reporting obligations, which will make your life much more complicated, actually. So we try to see if we can do this as seamlessly as possible through e-forms, if it is possible, so that we can do, through the PBDS, support you in monitoring the various aspects. It will reinforce, of course, transparency. We will help you to improve the data quality, which is usually one of the biggest issues that we see when we look at the data. And at the end, I will say what we plan to do with the PBDS also to help you there. Then we want to, of course, raise awareness about the level of competition that we have in public procurement. There was this report from the European Court of Auditors who said that it was declining over the last decade. And we have to see how can we actually increase competition? How can we make it more attractive for businesses to participate in public procurement procedures? And what we already can see now is that through the PBDS, we have much more collaboration between the member states and the Commission, which is very fruitful, because I think it's not something that we can solve or which the Commission can solve on its own. It's something where we all have to work together, and we also have to include the buyers who are actually using the systems to procure. And one thing that will be also clear more in the future is that PBDS relies on e-forms, because there is a tight link between what is available in e-forms, what we can then do in the public procurement data space. Now, when it comes to the state of play, you see here the European map. We already have connected 4 countries besides TED. So we have Norway, Finland, Germany, and Austria. We will actually go live with an updated version where we also include then the data from Norway. And there is currently a TSI project ongoing, and 5 countries have participated: Latvia, Italy, Portugal, Cyprus, and I'm very happy that also Slovakia joined. The ones you can see, the green is the countries who are interested, who would rather prefer to join now than later. And then we have some countries who say not for the moment, but they already said that they will certainly join the PBDS. So in the end, I think in a few years' time, we will have all member states that are connected to the public procurement data space. When it comes to the use cases, we currently provide dashboards, which is, I think, the most important part of the public procurement data space, is to provide input or to provide information to the end users. We went live in September on the 24th. And what we cover is monitoring of public procurement market. So what you already know as the single market scoreboard indicators that we have on DG Grow website, we have copied them also in the PBDS. So we continue to do this, provide those dashboards compared to the single market scoreboard where you have just fixed pictures. In the PBDS, you can actually play around with the data. You can select countries, you can select time frames, you can select sectors, which is actually very, very interesting. We also provide a dashboard on data quality. When we speak about data quality, is how reliable is the data that we actually have. And this is something when we had workshops with practitioners, when we were implementing the public procurement data space, data quality was the biggest issue. For example, some countries or some buyers indicate that the contract value is €1, which is of course usually not the case. And I think that in the future we will put much more emphasis on data quality. Then the third use case that we currently cover with the public procurement data space is strategic procurement, because with eForms, it was the first time actually where we capture data on green procurement or innovative procurement or social procurement. And we show the information that we receive for this also in the PBDS. And it's very interesting to see how those fields are applied. You can see, for example, countries who made it mandatory to use those fields technically. And I think Slovakia is one of them. So there are a few countries in Europe where you can see from the indicators that are shown that that buyers need to provide every time information about strategic procurement, which is very important because then we also understand better on where strategic procurement is not used. Something that I find very interesting, and that is the reason why we said for eForms, it is important for member states to tailor eForms to their needs. Some of the information is optional, and it's then for the member states to decide to make it mandatory to actually use. And like in Slovakia, where they have technically enforced that the information is provided, we see other countries who have a legal obligation for the buyers to provide this information, but it's not technically enforced. And we can see through this dashboard that it doesn't work. If you only enforce things on a legal level, it is good, nice, but in the end, you need to have some technical enforcement to have this information. Now, when it comes to the next steps, as I said before, we will have a Christmas release. I can tell you, setting up the public procurement data space, when we started to do this, I wouldn't have thought that this is a highly complex implementation. Dealing with public procurement data or dealing with data in general, it is not something where you just have a tool, you just throw the data at it and then you can use it. We do actually much more with the data that we receive. So we transform all notices that we receive in any kind of format into something which we call e-procurement ontology. The procurement ontology is provided by the Publications Office. And you potentially, who of you have never heard of the term ontology? Or let's ask it in a positive way. Who of you know what an ontology is? 1, 2, 3, 4, so very few. Have you ever used an ontology? Actually, all of you, but you were not aware of it. It is when you are in Google and you are looking for a restaurant. And then you see at the beginning from Google, it will show there is a restaurant. It has this rating. It is open. Here is the link to the menu. Here it is, and it's closed or it's open. This information can only be shown to you because there's an ontology behind it, which says what are the functions of a restaurant. You have it also for products. When you search for specific products, sometimes you see, even without going to the website of the company, you see the products with all the details, with a picture. This is all due to an ontology that is provided. So we use ontologies every single day, but we are not aware of it. And so we use also an ontology for the PROCUREMENT data space. And that is good, but it creates an additional burden on our side. And we, as I said, when we went live in September, and we are currently readjusting the data to improve the data that we have in the system. And like we have this Christmas procurement conference here, which I said already yesterday to Peter, is a fantastic title. We also plan to have a Christmas release on the PBDS. So I hope that before the Christmas, we will go live with updated information on the PBDS. When it comes to new functionality, we will add certainly new dashboards. What we are currently working on is the Commission is working on an evaluation, and one part is about transparency and integrity, where we'll also use PROCUREMENT data, and we will show soon, I think in the first quarter of next year, a dashboard or dashboards on the PBDS on those indicators. And then we will add dashboards for the foreign subsidies regulation, for the international procurement instrument, or also for the energy efficiency directive, also the clean vehicles directive. So we will add in the next year many, many more dashboards on the PBDS. And this is where I said in the beginning, we will use the PBDS to do the monitoring, to help member states in the monitoring process. We will provide, certainly, an API, and that is a project that is very dear to my heart, that, for example, EVO or UVO could be connected to, so that before you publish something on TED, that you can submit a notice to the PBDS, and all the data quality report you will receive back. So before you even publish this information, you will get a very sophisticated report about all the issues that we potentially have identified. And I guess that with this implementation, or with this API, the data quality will be much, much better. And then, of course, Ivan said it, the State Secretary said it in his speech, AI will become much more important. I think, yes, it will change a lot of things in the future. I'm certain of that. We, of course, will also make use of AI to analyze the data. And I hope that we will be able to develop the PBDS in such a way that it can be used as a companion, as a daily companion for buyers. And then, last but not least, we will add the 4 or 5 countries in the next 1.5 years. And I'm certain that in 2026 and 2027, we will add almost all the countries in Europe. So with this, I will hand over back to Peter.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to Chairman Mr. Kubovic for being such an excellent host and for organizing this amazing conference in the eve of Christmas, near to Christmas, to discuss about public procurement. Very important topic. Public procurement is more than a procedure. It's the way that we shape the future, how we procure and how we buy now. I'll discuss about AI in public procurement, a little bit what's happening in Albania. But before that, I would like to give two remarks. First, as Walt Disney said, that you can dream, design, build the best system in the world, but you need people to make it happen. And I have learned here from this conference the power of the people and the power of the one to lead these transforming changes. I would like to share a little bit of information about Public Procurement Commission of Albania. Public Procurement Commission of Albania is the highest independent institution body that review complaint for public procurement procedure, concession, PPPs, procurement in fields of defense and security. We have been established in 2010. And starting from 2010 to 2017, we have been part of the central government. It means that members were elected by Council of Ministers. But in 2017, we amended the public procurement law, and from them, we are an independent institution, and the members are elected by Albanian parliament by a 5-year terms mandate. Regards the structure of institution, we are around 42 employees, 3 members, 1 deputy chair, and 1 chair, and also 3 main sectors. But 2 of them are dealing directly with the complaints. We have around 15 to 20 persons that are working daily with the complaints in Albania. And if we see, this is the chart how a complaints system works in Albania. So it means that economic operators that want to make a complaint in regards to the decision of contracting authorities, first they need to submit a complaint online, at the same time to Public Procurement Commission and to contracting authorities. But then it's the right of contracting authorities first to review the complaint and give the decision, and after that, the Public Procurement Commission gives the final decision. It looks like easy, but it's complicated. And let's see about what happens through the digitalization process and how technology is helping contracting authorities and economic operators for easy reviewing the process of the complaints. There is a tariff to make a complaint to Public Procurement Commission of Albania based on decision 236 of Council of Ministers. Tariffs are 0.4% of the budget for return documentation and 0.5% for evaluation phase. There is no minimum and no maximum, so the sky is the limit. Regards complaints and statistical data, I will not give you for the last years, but till now, till November, we have around 1,059 complaints, around 48 millions of euros budget that is complaint, and more than 767 unique complaints, unique procurement procedures, they are complained. And this has been an increase by at least 20 to 25% of the number of the complaints. But why? Because of the technology. This is how it looks like 4 years ago, a typical protocol office in Public Procurement Commission of Albania. Albanian government was one of the first governments around Europe and the world that made it mandatory to do e-procurement since 2009, but the remedy system was out of the chain. So let's think about, if you are a business and you are dealing with the government and you want to make a complaint, you need to travel around from the north of Albania to come to Tirana, to the capital, when we have our office, to submit a paper, to go back to the bank, to do the payment, and then to come back to Public Procurement Commission and to submit a complaint, and then go to the contracting authorities. Saying this is a lot of energy. Imagine doing that. And a lot of doors closing. In the middle of pandemic, around July 2020, we thought, okay, now is the momentum to think about the way of giving services to the citizens, to economic operators, to contracting authorities. How about to digitalize, to make new platform to submit the complaint, but more than submission of the complaint, to review the complaint in the digital way. Can technology address procurement problems with the stakeholders? We think yes. Because there are a lot of lessons that can be learned, especially from the remedy system. Maybe we don't have these ex-officio competencies to oversight all the system, but we review only the complaints. But even in that, 20–25% of the procedures that are complained, you can find a lot of problems, and all of institutions can benefit. Contracting authorities, Council of Ministers, parliaments for new regulation. I will show you what happened after that. And back in 2020 and back in 2024. This is our smart guys called thin client system that we manage all the documentation. But what we have done, simple. Unique platform to make a complaint through e-Albania platform. It's a central platform for giving services in Albania, and where all contracting, all economic operators have their profile, so they just can go there, by one click, submit the complaint, they take all the data, all the information through interoperability system with other system, with tax authority system, national business register system, and EGP system. They submit the complaint, and then the contracting authorities review the complaint in the system. Public Procurement Commission review the complaints in the system, issue a decision with electronic seal and e-signatures, fully digitalized. No need anymore to come and just to submit a paper or to review the complaint. We have translated into digital tasks all the tasks that are prescribed by the law. By this, we are avoiding doing the same mistake twice for contracting authorities and also for Public Procurement Commission itself. Being open and transparent is not an easy task, but we know that this is the only direction. So for that reason, together with Open Contracting Partnership and NGO based in Washington, we start thinking about, okay, we'll have the system, we'll digitalize it, but we need to be transparent to the stakeholders. There are public money there, and they need to be aware of what is happening. So together with them, we have established, and this year it has been finalized, a long project to create the first OCDS annex for the remedy system. And we are proud and humble to say that we are on the first remedy system reviewing body in Europe that we have implemented OCDS in publishing data, not only the data for the current complaints, but also from the complaints started from 2010. Together with ABRD and OCP, we translated into the machine-readable more than 9,000 decisions. Now is there, and I will show you a little bit more about the future plans, how to use them. As well, we were aware of the fact that we need to be open and transparent to all the stakeholders. So we are one of the first governmental institutions that we have implemented a special module to search the information for the person with visual impairments. And we have more than 400 users per year that they are checking our website through this special engine. And regards OCDS, just 4 years ago, we published only 4 fields about public procurement procedures complaints: name of contracting authority, name of economic operators who make the complaint, the budget, and the status. Now we publish more than 21 fields, all of that in the OCDS standard. And which were the effects of digitalization? How digitalization has reshaped the way of doing business and the mindset of all the stakeholders. I will not show you big data regards last 4 years, just January to September. From January to September, there are more than 258 unique economic operators that make a complaint through the e-appeal system. And 69 of them are newcomers. It means that they have been there, we've checked, they have been there, they have doing business with the state for more than 3–4 years, but they never make a complaint because they never trusted paper-based process. Through digitalization, yes. And in the remedy system and the procurement, especially when we see that the companies are companies, they are run by big mans, but no. Through digitalization, you can see that around 18% of newcomers, of 23% of newcomers, they have SEO as female or co-honored company by female. Regards the accessibility, there are more than 600,000 clicks in the website. We just just to understand, we receive around 80 to 100 complaints per month. So it means that it's more than the market. It means that also citizens, media, NGO, everyone is checking what is happening with the remedy system through the digitalization. In only 9 months, we have saved more than 137,000 kilometers to economic operators for traveling around, and more than 31 tons of dioxide carbon not emitted in the atmosphere, calculated by AI. But what's next? We have three main projects. First is Clarity App. What will be Clarity App? Clarity, we are working closely with OCP, and hopefully in the next first quarter of the next year, we'll have a dedicated app through AI to help and support contracting authorities and economic operators for better decision when they make a complaint. What does that mean? If you are a supplier and you are disqualified in one procedure, and you want to make a complaint, but you don't need to spend money or time, you should, or time for lawyers or money for lawyers, because they're expensive, for sure, and you need to know what it was, the similarity of the decisions of PPC for that kind of question. You just take the disqualification reason, put on the system, and the system will provide all decisions of PPC in the last 10 years with the same question. And you will be very easy for you to decide if you want to make a complaint or not, and the chances to win. As well, together with that, we are now under ISO 37001 implementation certification for anti-bribery, and the next is the new AGP system based on AI. And now, I let the AI to do a part of job for me, and I will show you how will it look like the system.
What's something people don't know about public procurement? It's about to get a high-tech makeover with AI. When public procurement comes up, we often think of doubts, risks of corruption, and a mountain of questions. But let's take a breath, slow down, and imagine a game changer. Government officials, picture a system that handles everything for you, from preparation to contract monitoring, suggesting technical specifications, and creating tender documents. Imagine automatic evaluations, contract management, and monitoring through drones and satellites. Suppliers say goodbye to those daunting 100,000 pages. With just a click, the system auto-fills your documents by integrating with over 30 databases, simplicity at its finest. Concerned about transparency? This AI-powered system provides red flags and the highest transparency, thanks to e-forms and OCDs. It's about making procurement processes crystal clear, and believe me, this is just the beginning. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them, said Walt Disney. And this isn't just a dream. This is the future of AI in Albania's public procurement system. The future is here and now, as effective as this video made with AI. So are you ready to embrace the AI revolution in public procurement? Because Albania is. Let's make the future brighter, together.
It took me only 7 minutes to prepare this video through AI. I prepared the text and give the command to AI and said, look, I want a video regards with this text. You can upgrade the text if you want, but this will be the message, and you find this and this kind of image. 7 minutes, the AI prepared this video for me. And it remembers me, the clever Hans. In 1904, in 1907, it was a smart horse. He was trained by Wilhelm von Osten in Germany to do not easy, but very complicated calculations in mathematics. Everyone was surprised, say there is a magic behind, or maybe he's giving the instruction from the owner, but it was not like that. The clever Hans, it was typical way of AI works, and he's an example about the new artificial intelligence, because the algorithm of the clever Hans works also without the relevant data. But we have another horse to train, and our new horse to train and to learn to be the new EGP system in Albania. On March 2024 of this year, Albanian government changed the public procurement law. More than 50 articles of the law were amended. Three main pillars was the logic behind the changes, but the first and the top of the heart of it was creating a new AGP system which will handle procedure through AI, starting from preparation to the contract monitoring. But what is going to happen? Let's see a little bit. Contracting authorities, if they need to draft the technical specification, they'll do it through AI. So they will go to the system and ask the system for the kind of product, service, or jobs that they want to do, and the system will suggest technical specification based on national or international standard. It means that the system, it will be linked directly into the national database of standardization institution. And then if they want to calculate the budget based on the law, there are different ways to calculate the budget in Albania. One of them is by doing this market research. No need anymore to go to the business and to ask for a quote or bids. No, the system will do this through direct automatization with a tax authority system and with custom service system and fiscalization system. And after that, or also they can check from similarity of the contracts, same price of the contracts of the previous of all contracting authorities. And after that, the business will not need anymore to provide any kind of documents. They will just create their virtual company dossier through AI, through interaction with more than 30 systems, 35 systems. We are now doing the calculation, and then all the documents will be there. And if you are an European economic operator and you want to participate, you have the same treatment, because we also will check the documents through eCertis. It will be direct linking between our new EGP system and with Certis. And then contracting authorities will have the hands of the procedure, because the system will do automatic evaluation of the procedure and suggest the winner. And after that, it will be the contract management by implementing red flags and risk of corruptions in all the procedures, and then contract monitoring. Currently, right now, we have 2 satellites, Albanian 1, Albanian 2, and then some drones. So we're thinking about also to use drone and satellite technology in order to monitor the contracts, e-order, e-filling, e-payment, implement OCDS for transparency and e-forms. So we are closely now, we'll start next year working closely with European Commission and DigiGrow about helping us to give the right terms of reference and to give us the right, let's say, expertise to implement e-forms. It will not be an easy task, and we know that, but it's mandatory. So, as we have studied, because what we have done during this period, we have studied more than 109 models around Europe. What happens with AI, public procurement, and we have seen that there is no full cycle, starting from the beginning to the end, like our government, like Albanian government ambition, but they are part for sure, and we are taking the best example for them. We think that it will be artificial neural network, and from the data model, it will be data lake house, data warehouse. Let's see it. This is a system, how it will look like based on our opinion and based on the public procurement. So starting from preparation, purchasing, complaints, contract monitoring, and even that we have a very good complaint system, we will go more through automatic suspension if in case that there is a complaint, and the automatic suspension after the decision of Public Procurement Commission. Saying that, I know I'm so sorry, I'm a little bit over time. By saying that is very important to use AI in public procurement procedures. For sure, the main challenge, it will be training of the model, training of the AI. There would be the main challenges right now. And what we have seen through all of our process of digitalization is that digitalization is not a problem itself. Technology is not a problem. Mindset is the problem. And GovTech and using AI in public procurement will help not only contracting authorities, but also economic operators, but also the citizen for faster and better decision-making process. Thank you.
Dobry den.
Very good morning.
Share a few insights which are coming from a survey that the OECD carried out this year among its 38 member countries on the state of play when it comes to digitalization of procurement processes and the use of emerging technologies, including AI, in procurement processes. I'll probably be a bit less enthusiastic about the use of AI. We can see uneven progress across OECD countries, but I wanted to share with you some of these insights. The reason why we are conducting this survey is because the OECD has developed a recommendation on public procurement back in 2015. That recommendation, of course, included the use of digital technologies to support procurement processes. And as per the overall OECD methodology, we are required to assess progress in the implementation of the recommendation across OECD countries. So the question is, what is the future of public procurement? Is it AI? Is it BI? I would say it's probably a bit of both. What we see is that, of course, digital technologies can radically change how public procurement is being carried out. It can provide data, which can then support decision-making. Technological advances, again, AI, machine learning, will provide government with increased data processing capabilities. But those promises could only rely on integration and interoperability between systems. Public finance management tools, budgeting, human resources system, those databases, should they be integrated, would provide additional insights on the effectiveness of the procurement function. So what we saw in the survey is that OECD countries are increasingly using more comprehensive e-procurement solutions. First of all, close to 2/3 of OECD countries significantly updated their e-procurement system in the past year. And almost all of OECD countries have upgraded their system in the past 3 years, which means that the system now in place are keeping pace with technological advancement. What we see in the different stages of the procurement cycle and different features of the procurement system is that, of course, most of the functionalities concentrate on the tendering stage, much less on the contract execution phase. You can see here that contract management remains, well, with a bit of progress, but still remains underused. And when it comes to submission of invoice, you can still see that their use is not widespread. Again, there are few progress, and what we see here is that those systems tend to evolve towards more transactional system. There were first information portal, providing information on tenders being published, providing information on tender documents. Now they become increasingly transactional. When we looked at and asked OECD countries about their use of technologies to support procurement processes, what we found is that cloud, for example, cloud now is mainstream. Most of the e-procurement systems are using cloud functionalities. However, what you can see here is that the use of AI and machine learning still remains limited. What's interesting here is that while it remains limited, a bit less than 60% of OECD countries are using AI or machine learning, that's the area where you have the greatest number of ongoing initiatives. Meaning that many countries are right now investing in those technologies and trying to use and to leverage those technologies to support procurement processes. We also wanted to understand on which dimension of the procurement world those technologies were being used. And interestingly, well, probably unsurprisingly, most of the efforts concentrate on transparency. The use of these technologies is primarily transparency-driven. Here, what we can see is what remains an emerging trend is the use of those technology to support users, to support both contracting authorities and also economic operators. So here, these data suggest that, again, while focusing on transparency, oversight, there still remains potential, untapped potential to use those technologies to support procurement processes and to support the daily job of procurement officers. But all this, and again, sorry for being the one a bit crashing the party, but all this remains useful and provide opportunities to the extent you have data. It's great to use AI, it's great to use machine learning, but if you don't have data, those technologies are of little use. And what we can see here is that there's a very low level of integration between systems. If you look at budgeting systems, if you look at business registries, if you look at social security database, beneficial ownership database, all these different databases, which, again, exist in different institutions, most of the time are not connected to the procurement system in OECD countries, which then, by default, limit the opportunities provided by the use of AI or machine learning. So again, with this data, I just wanted to highlight that evidence suggests there are ongoing initiatives, there are potential in using AI or using BI, yet most of the time it concentrates on the tendering phase. Most of the time it's used for transparency and oversight purposes, and still it suffers from limited integration between systems. One element beyond AI, but one element that I wanted to also, or two elements, sorry, that I wanted to bring to you today is soon and we spoke about declining competition across the EU, but that's a phenomenon which can be observed also beyond EU borders. In the same survey, we asked OECD countries how many times, and I'm sure you will see where Slovakia fits in, we asked OECD countries how many times in the last 5 years they revised their primary legal framework. Close to a third of OECD countries have revised at least 8 times in the last 5 years their legal framework, meaning that every single 7 months and a half, the legal framework changes, which will maybe at one point justify the use of AI just to understand the legal framework. The second point I wanted to bring to your attention is the question of people. We've heard a lot about the importance of people behind systems, behind tools. Again, in the same survey, we asked OECD countries whether they were offering competitive salaries to procurement officials vis-à-vis other civil servants. Just 14% of OECD countries responded they provide competitive salaries. So you might have the best system in the world, you might have the best tool in the world. If you're not dedicating enough attention to the function, to the people behind, that will be a missed opportunity. Thank you.
So, thank you. The microphone is not working. Microphone is not working. Now it is. Thank you. So, once again, for the inspiring presentations, thank you. I'll take my 5 more minutes for you to see what the Slovak PPO is doing for you, and in what stage is digitization at our bureau. On those first slides, I wanted to show you how difficult the years were, 2023 and 24, to save the e-forms project. I'd like to thank the colleagues I've already mentioned and my colleagues from the PPO and those gentlemen seated here, Mark, other people from the MIRI Ministry for Investment, those who've helped us to catch up what we've lagged behind at our PPO. The e-forms and the shape of PPO now, for you to have an idea, what you see daily on our website is the first line up the top. It's something you're familiar with on your daily basis, communicating with PPO. Now what is within is in the middle part of this image, and the integration to other systems are at the bottom. Just to give you an idea, when we've been taking over the bureau, we have about 290 virtual servers filled up to about 20%. Very suboptimal. We've been addressing this on a daily basis, trying to clean up the bureau through this digital part thereof, and we'd like to move forward, just like Albania has shown us today. We'd like to really get back to where we used to belong. We used to be a digital leader in PP. This was a long time ago. So basically, I'd like to show you mainly that where we are heading. Those are the yellow part and the future. So looking at that, where we've invested our energy, in addition to creating and strengthening continuously the digital agenda department, first time establishing a real analytic department, analyzing data that you supply us on a daily basis. Previously, we've done nothing with the data, we just received them. As the Act regulated, we are now starting to deal with the data. What is happening in public procurement? We wish to work for you because it's our duty. So we also have a small project underway, supported by the European Commission through the MIRI Ministry. It's the creation of tender documentation to help small procurers who have not enough capacities to continuously create new briefs. We have our methodologies to support those public procurers, so you don't have to wait for methodology guidance for 30 or more days. Through such electronic instrument, you can not only create a standardized brief, but also accompanied by methodology support. So that's one of our small projects. Another one is to procure an instrument helping you be trained in PP. That's the second yellow bubble. We are also planning in supporting the future support of MIRI through a chatbot, I'm going to call it, for methodology, to really have a smart assistant using AI answering frequently asked questions. And once the chatbot is unable to reply, then you will be connected either through a live operator or through other media. Inside our bureau, our processes, as they were accumulating, they've become too cumbersome and complex. So we're working on our controllers work better, also appeal people to work easier. That's the part on the left yellow part, which is non-existent today. It's planned. And that should cause our controllers to have, again, a chatbot at their disposal, enabling them to seek out anomalies in past decisions and to speed up and streamline our processes. As we've heard everywhere, there's a pressure on speed. We are aware of that, so we'd like to look inward into our organization, and through these instruments and AI, we can make that happen. And on the right-hand side, again, the yellow is a major deficit from the past. Only 2 controlling departments have been digitized. Everything else works on Excel spreadsheets. So the ambition is to catch up to that again. We have projects for that, supported by MIRI Ministry. Thank you for that. With regard to integration, we'd like to be integrated at the consolidated analytic layer. Again, major MIRI software, which should provide an overview of data, working with data. At the same time, we have another pending project already underway of proof of concept. That's the SAC project, SAC, using licenses, enabling us to by the Ministry of Finance. So we are playing around with data at our bureau, and which data from you enable us to analyze. Within 6 months, you should see it at our website. Through this instrument, also some outcome, some result, what we see from your data that you've manually been inputting. That's another very useful project for us. Consequently, we have also prepared so-called ARNA apps, which is ready but not yet launched, because we'd like to catch up in other debts before we make that happen. When your e-forms upgraded first, then we can launch ARMA apps, enabling the private operators for systems used in PP to be integrated to the PPO. So the data be flowing in bidirectionally into private systems and from them back to us. This is already completed. We're only waiting for the e-forms upgrade. With regard to the major project Mark mentioned, it's the PPDS project. We've already heard about this. It's been dealt with at our bureau by at least 3 people looking at the e-forms, and we look forward to very much having the Commission and its expert looking at our data, and one day we will become PPDS member and it will be functioning. We will look into ontology, look into the future. Today the Commission already is creating models how this tool will enable monitoring unauthorized bid rigging and things like that. There are some models to reveal incorrect procedure, many options, it's really unlimited for the future. So in order to enable some Q&A, I'm going to stop this now. Moving on to Q&A.
Okay, I will try to speak English. Mark, we have heard what you are preparing for us as a European Commission about e-forms and PPDS. How do you expect the future development of this system? Am I right that this system and the limits are basically, they have no barriers, yeah?
They will be, of course, further developed. I think they will become an integral part also in all e-procurement solutions, because e-forms drives very much on how also e-procurement solution works, functions. Having that said, what we have to take care of is that there are roughly 50 or more sectoral legislation on the horizon that will affect public buyers. And what we have to try to achieve is not to overburden the buyers with more and more fields in e-forms to make e-forms more difficult to use. I hope that we will be able to do so. But of course there are limits there will be limits not to provide too much burden on the side of the buyers. But yes, we will further develop it and...
Yeah, thank you. Maybe, Mr. Sedlak, you have heard these 2 days our problems as representatives of buyers or administrative people who are working daily with public procurement. How do you see the future of AI and BI as other part of environment of public procurement?
Thank you for the invitation. And I see really bright future, because when I heard all of this presentation, with great examples and great strategic view how every one of you see the future. And basically, as Matthew said, that business intelligence or data is everything. So you need to provide great and good data, and to do this job on first. And then when you have a good data, you can train the models for the specific problems, and then you get a solution for it. So, and also as a representative of MIRI said that we need to focus on the smaller steps, not only for the huge ones. And this is the way how I see it, and this is the way how we do it also in our company, and how we provide solutions for our customers.
Okay, and do you also see some risks in using these new instruments, AI basically, yeah?
Yeah, basically risk is the same as another software. Cybersecurity is really important for all software solutions. So we need to focus also on cybersecurity standards. And one more risk or issue which I see is also not the technology, but the mindset. The mindset of everyone is one of the most important thing, and we should also do the education, the conference like this, and the workshops to get information level for everyone on the same step, and this is how I look this future.
Yeah, Matthew, maybe can you comment it? What are the concerns of other states or?
Well, I think that one major challenge that is posed to procurement officials across countries when using AI is the challenge of accountability, and how to use these technologies in decision-making in procurement processes while maintaining accountability. We've seen in other fields than procurement, but we've seen in social welfare, for example, we've seen some cases of the use of AI introducing bias in decision-making, and I believe that that will be the main challenge facing procurement officials. On the other hand, the main opportunity that I can see in the use of AI is user support, and how to support both the procurement officials, but also the private sector when responding to tenders. And we're seeing interesting initiatives across few OECD countries in the use of AI. For example, in Canada, they are just piloting a tool which supports SMEs to bid in public tenders, analyzing tender documentation and providing them with pre-filled responses. So there are opportunities, but again, I do see accountability as being the main challenge in the use of AI in procurement processes.
Thank you. Maybe one question for Ionite. You are a leader of now, as I see you, you are a leader in using AI and these plans for the future. But how do you dealing with security issues in systems? Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, for sure. There are risks of integrity and also risk of security and cybersecurity in all the systems. 2 years ago, Albania went through a massive cybersecurity attack from Iran. So all the systems were closed for 2-3 weeks, and we checked, and we are very afraid about our e-complaint system. What happens with them? There is data, there is business data, there is state data there, has been linked. After the process, we checked that nothing of our information was leaked. Everything was safe and secure because we implemented a thin client system. It means that in our systems, in our offices, we don't have any more computers. We have just desktops. They're linked directly to the server, and it's more difficult to attack and to attack a server rather than a computer. And through this system, we show that the system that we have built together with the National Agency of Society Information were secured, for sure. There are a lot of questions right now that we are discussing about a new EGP system in Albania, how it should be secure, what should we use, the technology and all of that. And the best experts on behalf of the state are there. They are working on it, but I totally agree that there are risks of security, there are risks of integrity in the new platform, but technology is a plus. So we also can see that how to use technology not only to provide this level of services, but also to provide the highest level of the security. Will be used blockchain? We don't know. Of course, it is expensive, but it's more secure. It will be used blockchain for all the map of the of all the system. Let it see, but for sure, this is one of the top priorities right now because it is the new EGP system that the Albanian government thinks to establish. It will be linked to more than 30 other systems. It means that also the possibility for attacks and for risk of integrity should be higher because it's not only one system, but there are more than 30 systems that they are communicating every day with each other, and there are possibility of risks. But yes, if you have a good plan, if you do a good procurement plan also for the sake of the system, you can mitigate risks.
Yeah. I think I have time for maybe one more question, or I don't know exactly where are we with time, because it is not correct, definitely. But Mark, can I maybe ask you, is there something new in field of European single procurement document? We call it in our language yet, like it is like poison, yeah, because it is funny, and we are still using only like paper-based. It is in PDF version, and we only connect it to our tender documentation, yeah, in PDF, and that is quite everything. But do you plan in the European Commission to like evolve this instrument, or give us some? Can you give us some good experience, maybe from other member states?
We currently, what the approach in the next year is to align it further with e-forms and with e-certis. It should become a kind of a self-declaration certificate that can be used to support the once-only principle, because it has a lot of structured information. I know people see it as a long document and hardly usable, but when you come to the actual procedure, if you use it digitally, if you connect it to national databases, it can be of huge help. Unfortunately, I have to leave. I use this opportunity now.
I have many questions prepared for you.
So it was a pleasure of being here. Yes, it even was fantastic, and I will not spoil further the panel. You can continue, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
I think we already spent our time. Yeah, thank you.
Vážení hostia, prosím vás.
Dear guests, we will now have a 20-minute coffee break. Thank you.
Slovakia. If it's not the wild water that surprises you, the underground water certainly will. As will a walk through the treetops, experiential dining, and the Last Supper. And if this panorama doesn't surprise you, for sure you'll be surprised that I'm telling you. Slovakia, what a surprise.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to open the last panel of our Christmas conference, which we called Questions from the Practical Field, or Practical Questions, to which answers are not that straightforward, and we will, I'm sure, definitely see it when colleagues will answer. So I'm really happy that the following experts have accepted our invitation. Jana Cvečková from Slovak Electricity Company, Martin Viklický from Vysoké učení technické University in Brno, and Vlado Oros from Tatra Tender. And my name is Braňo Hudec, and I work at the PPO. I'm going to be your guide for this panel. Well, thank you also for acknowledgement. Well, you know, we all know that the VAT will go up as of January, which will have an impact on PP procedures. We also issued methodological guidance saying that when you are setting up conditions for tender, you need to set it up in such a way that VAT will be already the new one, a new level. And should you have a need to change a contract because of the new VAT, it is possible. We are not going to view it as a significant change in the contract, so it is possible to change it even later in the form of an annex. Now, imagine a situation which is quite real, that the tender was set for the old VAT, but bids are being evaluated when we know that VAT is going to be increased. So how should the public procurer proceed? Should we take into account the old level of the VAT, or can we amend it considering the new VAT and assess bids in that way? So that's our first question. And allow me to ask our guests, ladies first, maybe we can apply this principle. So how do you view this, Erna? Well, thank you very much. Well, in our tenders, we don't usually actually apply VAT, but should anyone apply VAT, I do believe since this is a legislative change, we need to apply it, and we should be applying it even before the contract is signed, based on the legislative change, even though the act and its endorsement is a bit earlier than when the contract is going to be signed. Vlado, how would you view the situation? Which procedure would you apply? Original rules and original VAT, or the new one, once assessing the bids? Well, thank you for the floor. First of all, we need to say that there are two aspects to consider. One is the business or contractual aspect, which is not that relevant given the assessment, because even if the VAT is changing in the future, it is all going to be updated. But the problem can arise if the change in VAT means a problem or a difference in the order of the selection of the bids. So let's say that one of the bidders would not actually be a company that is paying VAT, or it could be a social enterprise that could actually have an impact on the order of bidders, of selected bidders. Yeah, well, this can also happen when you have, with the old VAT, when you have someone who is submitting their bid and not being a VAT payer, and then once concluding the contract, he had become the VAT payer. So in that case, it doesn't matter whether we are assessing 20 or 23% of VAT. I need to select bidders in a transparent way, following the rules, and of course, the economically most advantageous bid. Yeah, but what if someone would conclude the contract with the old VAT? That's not a problem at all. If I'm concluding a contract and a certain legal framework is valid, then he's going to invoice or bill prices with VAT that is applicable at the moment of billing. And we know that after January 25, this new VAT is going to apply anywhere. Well, I'm just saying that it would pose a problem only if, in the conditions of the tender, would be such that the order of selected bidders would be different with the new rules than with the old rules. So then I would really have to consider the principles. Which one is more relevant, the principle of transparency or the principle of economicality? Whether it is the most advantageous bid from the economic point of view. And of course, then they can still appeal that assessment or evaluation wasn't done based on tender conditions. I don't know what PPO would say, but maybe also we could repeat the whole tender unless this would be a huge contract, time demanding. So should this be necessary to be concluded, then I would prefer the principle of transparency to be applied. Martin, you said that in the Czech Republic you usually assess without VAT, but should these VAT fees be changed or were changed in the past? How did you approach this situation? Well, I have to say that when we evaluate bids, we use prices without VAT. If VAT is used, it is only in a situation if there's a smaller contract and we expect that there would be small traders who are not registered as VAT payers, because the obligation to pay VAT is in case that you reach a turnover of 2 million crowns within the past 12 months. Usually the small traders, small companies do not achieve that. And we are evaluating bids without VAT because we want to make it advantageous for SMEs. Well, you mentioned social companies. We don't have this kind of a law yet. It is under preparation, so it's a work in progress. And I do believe that there might be a situation that in December you receive the bid and the VAT is 20%, and then you are evaluating it in January when VAT is 25% and or 23%, but of course this must have an impact on the price.
U nás prostě platí pravidlo, že na hodnotící kritéria se nešahá, jo, takzvaně. To prostě je takový úzus, že my prostě nesmíme měnit hodnotící kritéria.
That's the agreement. We must not change evaluation criteria. So I would be a little afraid of the change, but there is an economics principle and the principle of an objective change caused by external action, legislation, right? That the people, participants cannot influence. Yeah, but the rate was changed by the state. And we used in our tender documentation, in the brief, only that which the state has established. And again, this is the expression of will of the legislation. We had this, and I can explain to you, we had an agreement meeting about this at our PPO, and the conclusion was that it is possible for the public procurer to make a change, make an amendment in the whole procedure, announcing it to everyone. This will not have a nature of application for explanation, because if someone didn't fail to respond, they would be excluded. You only need to conduct the change through the electronic instruments for the participants, for the bidders, to know how to recalculate any of the prices. So this is how we've concluded this in our environment. Second question. This is an interesting one, a relatively fresh position of the European Commission that we received, and we're going to have to tackle. We have not yet finalized our position about this. You know, in the case of a group of contractors apply for a contract, bidding for a contract, and one is bidding for another, they can only use reference only the portion, the percentage of whatever part or fraction they will have. And the position was that if the bidder is using subcontractors, this needs to be taken into consideration. So the Commission says also in this case you may not calculate the entire value of your performance, but only that which, because of you use subcontractors. Only then the public procurer could assess it, that they will count everything as though the bidder be coordinating subcontractors to a greater extent. It doesn't say what it means. It's not defined anywhere, coordination to greater extent. So we can confirm that we've not addressed this previously. We've always calculated this in full, but if we had to change this perspective, what would it mean, in your opinion, for the entire public procurement environment? I was a bit surprised from the position. I think it'll be necessary to clarify whether the position provider had understood the circumstances, or whether we have understood them, in fact. It is my opinion that the principle of reference is in responsibility or accountability of the contractor, of the bidder, to perform on the contract once awarded. So the ability to perform. So the contractual partner must have the right to have available their reference. And if we went into granularity of the contract, it's objectively not really possible. And if it were, even if it were, it would probably happen that no one would end up with any references. It would end up being fractioned, broken down to fractions, where the reference fulfillment would not be done by any one of the bidders. So due to that reason, I'm of the opinion that to be examining the content of performance in terms of participation of third parties on the contract cannot have any impact on whether or not the reference provided by contract by a certain entity. That's irrelevant to me. Give an example. IT environment has many projects implemented through physical persons whose team is composed of a variety of experts. They each have a contract based on a commercial principle. No one performs the entirety except for the main bidder, who, due to economically, may fulfill 10–15% of the entire contract, but they are the ones being accountable for performance, for fulfillment on the contract. So they have a developer, they have project manager. You cannot be going ahead with those people, the individuals, to hold them accountable. So it's only the accountability is held with the main contractor. So I think it should remain the same, and I cannot imagine how and in what way should this change. Now, do you know about this in Czechia? A question to Martin. Last time we discussed this, it was new information for all. What about the Czech view? Well, thanks for that. Thanks to you, I'm aware of it now. I don't think it's really good well thought out because of the contractual accountability and the chain or chaining of subcontractors, where you realistically a certain part of performance on the contract is the fifth down the line subcontractor really performing on the contract, the only one being hypothetically having no accountability towards the contracting authority. It would go against the next one up. But a part of the performance was done by them. There is not a major contract ever done by any one single general contractor. They always have subcontractors in variety levels of the contracting chain, or subcontracting chain. So if we went ahead and go into the depth, it would probably almost no comprehensive reference be acceptable as a result. If you want to fix a parliamentary building for $500 million, you want a similar building to be for 250 million, or as a reference? How complex or how comprehensive you want them to prove as reference, or furnish as reference from the past. But they had contractual accountability, and the principle of that is something I would like to retain. And on my behalf, I will take the position into consideration. However, I don't think it's very well applicable for practice. I would also prefer remaining at the current status quo. We'll see how we will discuss this in PPO. I wanted to add, if someone from the audience wanted to pitch in, express their opinion, please go ahead and let us know. Raise your hand, and if you're interested, you'll be given a microphone. You can join in our debate. It's up to you. A third question on the amendment having brought by the PP Act amendment starting from August 1st this year on institution of changing the bid. Now it's allowed for changing the itemized budget also in the bid. And the question is whether we could interpret this new provision in a way that the bidder submitting an item that did not meet defined requirements would basically be allowed through the Institute of Explanation to replace that item with such that meets the requirement. If we go through a grammar interpretation, it is the correction of itemized budget, but the question is whether this was supposed to have been the purpose of this amendment, as opposed to any missing points in the bill of items or any other zero volume items in the bids. So what about you in Czechia? When you address these explanations, we'll get to that soon. We are more benevolent in being able to add new references in the process. So do you also have a more benevolent view in this particular issue for the bidders to be able to make late our corrections? I'm actually happy for the topic, for the question asked, because in our country it's a big topic indeed. We have a provision in our Act, section 46.3, and enabling to make corrections in the itemized budget as necessary, not in the context of the material content of the bid, someone replacing an item, but in a way they can reprice the item. It's when they put in a zero by mistake into an item that was not supposed to be zero, we allow them to correct this. And taking into consideration the overall price must not be impacted, however, which in a way is indirectly enabling a subject matter change in the bid, substantive change that is, which in the overall is prohibited. So when you have something identified, an item not meeting parameters, they must exclude you. They must not ask you to replace the unfit item. What about Emma? Can you imagine and accepting replacing an item if it were a negligible component of the whole due to one small item not really representing 1 or 2% of the entire contract? Such bidder would be excluded, or do we have to be strict, never allow such change? I think this topic that deviates a little from the formalistic approach we've always strictly applied. I think it's excellent, because we should indeed think more and try more to get into the process to be more streamlined, not only for the bidders, but also for ourselves, because such a formal mistake, which may occur as an unintended error, could cause the whole tender to be cancelled, repeated, or accept a worse bid as a result. That should not be the aim of our procurement process. So when you take into account the time and energy spent from our side and the side of the market, and once things are moving towards the market more, market being the one making decisions whether or not they're interested in your tender, I think we must be more flexible, more accessible to these things. And in my view, it's difficult to think whether a small change or minute change or not. It's tricky to say so. If it's a small change, it's fine. If it's a larger change, it's not fine. So I would perhaps be guided by the purpose, whether we achieve the overall aim intended through the entire process. So I would welcome such an opportunity to be available, and the formalism would not be the main line of that decision-making, that this must not be done or this is allowed to be done. It's a Pandora's box, in a way, what changes it may cause as a result and so forth. At the same time, this will enable a degree of discretion on the side of the buyer. And I think if it's going to be reasonable, you can be governed by this. You don't have to have the rules set up in such a formalistic way. I would welcome and I would allow for this. Paradox situation is one where the contractor usually has in more beneficial position. They only put in the overall price without itemized budget at all. Our law allows this to be completely supplemented later, as opposed to other bidder who did the hard work, having provided itemized budget with a single error in it. The second contractor, in relation to the error being a material error, a part of the fulfillment not meeting the brief, I have to exclude them. So it's a bit of a paradox situation there, that the contractor who just didn't care about this, didn't submit a good quality bid, as opposed to someone doing the hard work, and they're in a more beneficial position. We try maximum information to obtain after deadline for submission of bids, after we preliminarily have selected the best preliminary contractor. That's the one we start testing them to elaborate more on the bids and provide more material information. Thanks for the information, and our opinion has been, as methodology guidance, whatever we've decided and issued, to confirm that which is already in Czech Republic. If someone will choose through explanation of changing that item or correcting it, and the item did not meet requirements, that should be reason grounds for exclusion, because there could be such bidders testing the buyer. Are they going to notice the error, a little shortcoming, and as though they're trying to test the attention, and the buyer could end up sometimes missing it?
Let us see the fourth question. This is a situation different in the Czech Republic from that of the Slovak Republic. In the Czech Republic, in your law, it is possible to complete or add new references as an explanation. So imagine that there is a bid and the references are not good enough, so you ask the bidder, and the bidder can complete the bid with completely new references. So this is the status quo. The question is, now within those years, or in the duration of the past years, haven't you registered an appeal or a complaint of the European Commission or maybe the Office for the Protection of Competition didn't have any reservations to this procedure? Well, there was a preliminary question about this, and this was a construction company from Turkey that wanted to take part in the tender in Croatia. And the question related to the access of third country companies to public procurement procedures in the EU. And the second question was the interpretation of this possibility to add complete bids later on with new references. Now we have a ruling with the first part, an answer to the first part of the question. We mentioned it yesterday. And the European Court of Justice, I believe, intentionally did not deal with the second question. It ruled it out as the one without the grounds. So half of Europe basically makes it possible to add references in the bid later on. The second half of Europe doesn't. And this is all because of the dual interpretation of the directive. But there is some opinion of the general prosecutor who quite clearly stated that it should not be possible to add references later on to the bid. We are quite open, or very open, in this procedure each day, and every day we are dealing with this kind of situation, and it saved many good bids for us. And you know, bidders lie quite a lot. They somehow amend their bids and references in a way, and then we either have an option to exclude him or to allow these bidders to add references later on. I believe that if it is applied in a right way, it can basically be a good thing, but it is an open issue in Europe. Well, our public procurers have another possibility. Do you have central register of references? No, we don't. Here in Slovakia, we do have such central register of references. So if in this respect, we interpret it in such a way that if the public procurer wishes to be proactive, they can consult this register of references, and if they identify some appropriate references in the register, public procurers can take it into account, given that they had been proactive. But then they should be proactive each and every time. So this is how we see the issue. Anyone from my Slovak colleagues, could you imagine a different approach? Or would you think that the bidder could then just complete their bids later on, and the processes of public procurements would be even longer than they are already? Or would you welcome this kind of option as an instrument for not needing to exclude a good bidder with experience, for example, that you can allow such a bidder to complete the bid later on with references? Well, I agree with it. The Czech Republic system has an advantage because it is an optional possibility. So they don't have to, but they can allow for it. So I have an experience that in the Czech Republic, they allow for it when it is appropriate. If really there is a need to open this option so that this bidder would not be excluded. Well, I believe that based on the law, but based on directives as well, there is one obligation of the procurer, and that is that there is a provision in the law that if there is a reason to exclude a provider of capacities, we need to ask the tenderer or the bidder to replace them. My question is whether this is in relation to personal position or just expertise. But if by law I am dealing with two types of bidders in the context of persons who are not bidders themselves, then the same rule should be applied to the bidders themselves, because a reference is an objective information that was created in the past, so it is not modifying the bid. I'm just verifying what is the status quo. So I don't think it changes the bid. Well, when we are talking about the change of the bid, we are talking about conditions of participation in a tender. Well, the status quo of how this is interpreted in Slovakia, I believe that it has a positive impact on the efficiency of processes, but on the other hand, it might not have a positive impact on the efficiency of the selection process. So maybe this should be defined by law, but this is really up for discussion. Well, I believe that the time does not have to play a role. If we request another reference, but it is still the obligatory issue, it maybe prolongs the time, but it's still the part of the process. But if it's a new reference, it can prolong the time. But you know what can happen? That you receive the reference, but you still need explanations maybe 3 times, 4 times, so that might prolong the time. But we should have this possibility, as in the Czech Republic, because you can have a situation that you have one bidder, and it was his goodwill. He really wanted to provide everything, but somehow he didn't. And the time it would call for is not such a relevant issue when you compare to the fact that you would have to exclude him. Well, in the Czech Republic, the problem is such that the contractor either is qualified or is not. And that's the key thing. And then it doesn't matter how we are going to verify their qualifications. Even in the law, it says that qualification references may be added after the bid is lodged. Well, in order to exclude misunderstandings in Slovakia, it is so that it is not possible, even though I can imagine that this could be a good option so that we would not have to exclude qualified bidders, just as you said. But a long-term experience is that as part of the explanation process, you cannot add completely new references to the bid. So if what you have in the bid is not sufficient, it's not sufficient, and it is a reason to exclude the bidder. Another question is related to a popular way of purchasing, dynamic purchasing systems. And quite often, even contractors have it for some commodities. Currently, it is only for over-the-threshold contracts. But this is probably quite reasonable also in other countries. But the question is that if we have over-the-threshold contract and we have this dynamic purchasing, whether I could purchase also outside the dynamic purchase system. For example, if I have not concluded any contract with any supplier, but these values were lower values. So should or had I considered all these values, I would not go over the threshold still. So I could still approach 3 suppliers directly. So how should I approach this? Once I have this dynamic purchase system, it is always for over the limits, or should I consider these values and these thresholds as I described it? What do you think, colleagues? Well, my opinion is that despite the fact that according to the law, the dynamic purchase system is applicable for the over-the-threshold contracts. Rules for identifying the assumed value are based on accumulation and maximum expenditure. I still believe that the dynamic purchase system is not a contract. Contracts are, and therefore I believe that if a public procurer establishes a dynamic purchase system and within the period of time would not purchase over the limit, that they would not be able to procure for more than 50,000 euros or less, unless a cumulative value is more than the threshold. Because this dynamic purchase system, when established, there is no obligatory system between and amongst entities that are qualified within the system. And therefore, I don't believe that this system prevents procure contracts as mentioned, that we would not be able to procure in another way, so that automatically this would be a violation of the law. Because according to our law, we cannot divide a contract. But as I said, the dynamic purchase system is not a contract. We could only split the scale of individual performances of or performing duties within the contract. At the same time, we can have a situation that public procurers, because they are afraid, rather go for over-the-threshold contracts, even though they don't assume that it will be of such a scale. So if they have a dynamic purchase system, and I don't have enough bids, then I have to purchase it differently, in a different method. So briefly, colleagues, do you agree or you don't agree with what was said? So I believe that we could use it. So if we have a dynamic purchase system, we don't have to exclusively use it if we don't split the contract. Well, I agree with what Vlado said. From my viewpoint, this is how it is defined in our law. So the dynamic purchase system is a separate type of, not really tender. It is just a method of purchasing within which the purchase is then implemented. So it's something like a separate category of purchase. And allow me to elaborate even further, or go even further. And I would not even do this total sum up of values of contracts that I buy within the system. But maybe it's a bit courageous of an interpretation. So as I said, by our law, the dynamic purchase system is a separate method of purchase, and most of the rules for over-the-threshold contracts do not apply to the dynamic purchase system.
Please, we have a question from the audience. Good afternoon. Thank you for opening this question. From the practical point of view, we'd like to ask, we have opened a DNS. We're considering how to continue with that, because it happens quite frequently, even though we notify permanently qualified bidders. Once announcing a partial contract, we have 0 bids received. And we have an internal rule, and we will repeat the DNS one more time. However, it happened that 3 times in a row we had 0 DNS. And we would like to know, from the practical point of view, through some methodology guidance issued by the PPO, how to continue, how to proceed from then on. Can we continue as an operative point of view. We need to deal with this as a matter of urgency. After repeating this a couple of times already, the process will cease to be efficient and dynamic, which is in violation of the very idea of dynamic purchase system, DNS. As my colleagues mentioned, we should allow to be purchased outside of the DNS, only in case you've, during the year, have not already purchased it in the same year in the above the threshold value. You could do DNS with the above the value threshold value. You could even with a partial contract, when you have a dynamic purchase system, DNS, through market consultations, you could go ahead with the included interested bidders, trying to find out the reason why they are not submitting their bids. Whether you should not maybe tender it in a smaller or larger volume for them to be more motivated to bid. So I would try communication with the contractors you have included to have with them, with your repeated failed, to have with them market consultations. And also on behalf of the PPO, we have to look at our guidelines. It could be guidelines that we issued for those of the threshold DNS procedure in context of the opinion we are listening not only at this forum but also from our buyers. We could look at it at our office and review this position. But maximum in the context my colleagues mentioned, always taking into account the value of purchases I've made before over an observed period, only then allow the less strict procedure if the sum up of the purchases is still under the less strict procedure. If I may add, we with the DNS, what we do is majority of the buyers and systems enable, if I make a call and a tender in the dynamic system, this is only seen by the qualified. The way we can set it up, the call can be open. So oftentimes it would attract new contractors we've never had before. We were able to include in our system. Currently we have erected maybe 2 minutes. I actually did the timing, how long it took to include them in the system. And they were not included previously. We still were able within deadline, allowing them to not only submit the bid but actually winning the contract. Some of the systems do not enable this. The call remains closed only for qualified contractors, but the Act does not allow prohibit us from opening it wider to a broad public the entire tender, and this may attract someone into the DNS. We've already done this on multiple occasions to the benefit of the tender, in fact. Okay, let's move on to the next question so we can go as many as possible. This is an interesting situation which could happen. Imagine you had a bid submitted and in line with the brief, and then during the assessment process the contractor will announce to you that some goods which was part of their bid stopped being made anymore, was discontinued, and he'd like to replace it with something else, which could be equivalent, meeting the tech spec. However, it would be a change in the bid. Question is, in this special case, could you imagine this happening? We've discussed this before under our preparation. Perhaps every bidder had met the requirements with different goods, only one being having offered goods which has been discontinued. Sometimes it takes a long time. It may happen that such offered goods have been discontinued. Martin was taking a breath, so inhaling. Unfortunately, this is an insolvable problem in our case. We've had a fairly good case law which enables a material change of the bid which is prohibited. And that's something I've already discussed before with the correction of the itemized budget in bids. So on my behalf, in this case, there's no way out. I could address this differently. I'm not going to present it here. And our Slovak colleagues, how would you have tackled this situation? You already may have had tackled this in the past. Try. I guess I would examine in what way the contractual conditions and terms were set up for the contract award. Sometimes it happens quite commonplace that the contract already includes an option for changing the subject matter of the contract during implementation. It's about IT, hardware, for instance. There's a very rapid development of hardware, and if they have a varied, structured or tiered or different tranches of delivery, these contracts already expect some components of the contracts could be replaced with other which are equivalent or better, with parameters as required in the tender brief or offered by the successful bidder, and the price remains the same. If such condition were in a contract, which is a part of the tender brief, and if met, the condition during the bid assessment, I could imagine prior to contract award, even because I won't violate any rules, I could make a change even so for the future, and such a change in a standard way could be something the contractor may be eligible for. So if the parameters were the same or better, I can imagine accepting this. If the condition in the tender brief was not included, I would be leaning towards this is a material change of the bid, which was unforeseen in the tender. I would not accept it as a result. Please. I think if we've already agreed on the previous question that the bid cannot be changed, it doesn't really matter whether it's due to subjective or objective reasons. If there was subjective, someone made an error, or objective being it's been discontinued as a good, it doesn't really matter. Such bid could not be accepted. So we would have to eliminate them and take the next one in order, or completely cancel the tender. I'm not speaking on your own behalf, but if we were to discuss this, could you imagine this as you've imagined? As you could have imagined references? What about this question? This already seems to me too much. I've made terms of reference, and the contractor offered something I want, and at a certain point there would be a change. Yes, okay, there could be something else. And if really you had a confirmation by the producer that this has been a discontinued product at the time of bid assessment, it's an important factor for timing. If they submitted a bid with something they know it's been discontinued, it would be automatically exclusion, no question asked. But during the bid assessment, which can take months with above threshold contracts, I would probably not accept this because they are unable to meet the commitment they made by submitting a bid. Next question, we've had this recently, in fact, with our colleagues, and we have not found an agreement, and it was escalated to our council. I'm going to give a bit of an introduction. It's quite specific for the Slovak legal system, because we have a provision in our Act enabling the procurer to negotiate on reducing the price after they have assessed a successful bidder. So a precondition for me to be able to conduct such a negotiation, it's announcing the successful bidder, I accept their bid. And then the negotiation outcome could be that no discount would be negotiated, from which the procurer would be disappointed. And one possible ground for canceling the contract would be that the price be higher than expected value of the contract. And they use the negotiation proceedings to bring it back down as close as possible to the expected contract amount. Can they still cancel, even though they have already announced the bidder, they accepted the bid? You disagreed there a little bit, so could you, Vlado, elaborate on this briefly? How you look at it and how Emma looks at it? The way I see it, formally, a procurement process has been concluded by either cancellation or a contract award. If neither one of these actions occur, and if legal grounds are met, anyone could happen. So you would allow it? Yes, I would. The way I look at it is from a point of view of legal theory, though I agree with what to say the process starts and concludes with the contract award, but on the other hand, the legal theory says offerta, being the offer, acceptance of the offer, that's the end of negotiation process. And after we've made a call for public tender and accepted the winning bid, we've expressed our will by accepting those conditions. So we may not, there was no change of circumstances. We knew about the price, we knew how the tender was initially come out. We should not have accepted if it was a higher price. We should not have accepted the bid or accepting it with all the consequences. So the binding nature of the result is the acceptance of the bid. Well, you're weakening a little. Are you not weakening the institute of negotiation on price reduction or discount? When I'm not weakening it, it's been weakened right from the start because it's conditioned. And if the procurer would say in the information about the result that the negotiation will follow, so it's a legitimate expectations to be weakened a little, that the bidder will still have to face negotiations, would that change your position a little? It would not, because it's a condition, acceptance or non-acceptance. If I put in a condition, the expression of will is not present. Okay, I failed to convince you. I will say on methodology department that we can imagine this from happening, and it's not yet final opinion of the PPO because we'll still have pending council meeting on this topic. Then I will, of course, let you know the outcome because this is an individual methodology guidelines request. To me, this is the accountability expression. What should they think of? Have you accepted or have you not accepted my bid? Do you or do you not want my bid? I'd like to express the support to Emma, to what she says, because I fully agree with her. Because from my perspective, the negotiation on price reduction is as though a pleasant potential bonus the contracting authority may start negotiating with the bidder. And if you have a provision, it's optional in the Act provision, having accepted the price, having awarded the contract, or announced the winning bidder, it seems to me unfair to the winning bidder and on the margins of transparency to cancel in the tender due to these reasons, expecting the contractor to reduce the price. Okay, you won't reduce it, I now cancel the whole tender. That's my view on this issue. Yes, there are different opinions about this, so thank you for those. Thank you for those positions. Next question is also interesting. We've had this also with our competition in preparation. Is it possible with above the threshold public procurement to require for the experts, technical ability for the experts to be directly employed by the bidders? Or do you already see this a limiting component which would limit competition to some? What do you think? We could start with Vlado. I'm afraid this would be in violation of Section 34 of the Act, because expert positions, requirements for experts are part of the listed, enumerated list of professions listed in the Act, and the Act does not limit the obligation to create room for using capacitors of third parties, which in on itself logically means that the relationship between the person through whom we prove the bidder is proving meeting the conditions for participation is based on two alternatives as a minimum. That's the either employment relation or other contractual business relation, whether it's physical person, natural person towards the bidder or their employer. So I'm afraid I cannot imagine how to break through this and by what? I'm going to counter you, so people go ahead and tell me your opinion, and I'll tell you situations the law actually allows for. Emma, can you say so, please? Is it okay from your perspective at the first hearing?
So what do you reckon? Well, I quite often encounter this requirement that we would like that an expert could be an employee of the bidder from various reasons in production, and there are safety reasons, but we do apply the current procedure that we cannot require that an expert is an employee, even though it would make sense in some situations. How about the Czech Republic? We even have some experience in practice that we cannot require an expert to be an employee. We can maybe apply other provisions indirectly. Yeah, I wanted to say that. I think it's section 38, paragraph 4, that public procurer may request that essential tasks are fulfilled directly by the bidder. So would this change your view? That I would apply this provision, I would determine the tasks that must be experts that are directly part of the bidder. Now the question is whether it would be a, like classic employment, or automatically we would accept accept someone who is working for the bidder based on the contract or agreement on work. But this agreement has a limitation as to the number of hours worked for such employer, but there are bids where this would not be possible. So actually you need then to have employees. So would such situation change your opinion? Well, I don't think so, because the condition is bound to certain tasks or activities. And if we require something in the conditions, and why we are binding this to a person who might be experienced or expert. It doesn't have to be only that activity, that particular activity. This person might be in a position of management, for example. So then bidders could bypass the whole provision, saying that he is also fulfilling other tasks, but I would use his expertise here. Well, to provision 38, paragraph 4, we could also define the job description of the expert. This is how we use it. And I don't think that it is a passing by or avoiding the principle of the ban. But if we restrict a certain part of the fulfillment task, then you cannot verify it or demonstrate the expertise under the supplier. So indirectly, I am saying that it must be an employee. Well, there are other consequences that we have realized as we were deciding on bids when procurers did not realize that they are restricting it, and they allowed for the other situation. So we somehow have experience in practical terms. So every procurer must realize that in this way they indirectly put a ban on this request. Well, this is exactly what I wanted to say. If I legally restrict the possibility to fulfill part of the bid by the supplier or contractor themselves, then I cannot go according to section 34, paragraph 3, but I can explore how the contract is going to be supplied, and there might be a problem, and the problem might be also then excluding the bidder. in a situation if the way of implementation of a contract or fulfillment of the contract will go against the conditions of the tender. And this is a problem that we are just starting facing, but it will be on the rise. For example, if you request a certification or a bidder has all the references and then you identify this one as 1% of the supply, well, it's not a simple topic, but I don't think these bids should be accepted without being able to see what the supplier is going to do or not. So it could be only possible if I apply Section 38, paragraph 3, concerning the tasks that should be fulfilled by these experts. And in that case, these experts should be sort of personal capacities or staff of the bidder. Well, in our law, the bidder must include in the bid a written commitment that he is going to fulfill the scale of the contract in such a way as they committed themselves in the bid in relation to the qualification of certain tasks and how they are fulfilled. So in the Czech Republic, the bidder must oblige themselves that he is going to fulfill the scale and the way of fulfillment the tasks as he committed in the bid. Now, the last question. Sometimes the price criterion is split. For example, if you have a contract for an IT work, at the same time it is split to services and to the product itself. So, and each criterion would have its value. I believe that this is really a simple question. If specifications says that the bidder accepts the whole fulfillment, then I should be evaluating only the overall price, be it assumed or obligatory, unless or if one or all items are only defined as to its content, then the scale must be considered in relative values or weights of these items. For example, I have two items. One is two pieces and the other one is one piece. Then I am going to calculate it as the double price of the first item. If I cannot identify these amounts, then I need to do it according to the assumed amount. This is just math and working with a relative weight. Well, my view is a little different. I believe that the price is a price, and if there is an amount or certain number of pieces, then of course I can calculate or add it up. Of course, that I need to consider the overall costs of the contract for the future, cost that it will call for in the future. But if we are trying to invent something with the lowest price that had been invented already, then I think we should be applying the cost of the life cycle. But the lowest price is the lowest price. That's it. So €1 is not more than another €1, if our math was right. If our calculations were right. So the weight should not be assigned to this price or that price, but we should be applying the cost of the life cycle. Oh, I am even afraid to talk about this with the presence of Miško Garaj, who is an expert on economic evaluation of bids. So I'm really now afraid that I will say something wrong. But in the Czech Republic, this is not banned. there was a time when the PPO was considering the price as one price, as Emma was mentioning, without assigning partial weights. And then over time, the opinion of the PPO has changed. It's been more tolerating. But what we are trying in practice, we are trying really to calculate the price as one price, as a total price. Because if we were assigning partial weights, the calculations need to be very precise and logical so that I can assign the right weight. And if I do, then it means the same as if I just added it up. So now the stage is such that we are working with the price as with one price. And of course, we know what are the fixed items. If it's an IT, we know that there will be maintenance, development, etc. And we are working with the price as with one figure. Well, we didn't have many such cases frequently, but I remember there was one such request, and our opinion was that it's not excluded if the public procurer has good grounds for it and good partial weights are assigned. As you said, that the qualified assumption is good. It is possible. That was our opinion. And the very last question related to the first panel of this conference, but it was a very generic panel related to new directives on public procurement. But we do believe that there will be some changes to the rules of public tenders. In Slovakia, also in the Czech Republic, the dynamic purchase system is really popular. So public procurers, if they may, if these are bigger contracts, they usually establish dynamic purchase system. Maybe you registered that there was a new definition of accessibility. And there was one amending provision that even more complicated works in construction works in the transport sector could be defined in such a way that they could go through the dynamic purchase system. And now my question is, if this is such a popular instrument with all those unbelievable options like adding up the value of the system or exceeding the duration, which is not that easy because the rules are quite strict, whether in the future we shouldn't evaluate the purchase dynamic systems without restricting accessibility. Well, I would totally be the one supporting it. I am supporting any system that makes it possible to select in a better way and use such a tool that is appropriate. So I'm totally supporting these opportunities. Well, in our country, the term standard accessibility or common accessibility is interpreted a little differently. For example, one ministry is buying the services of experts. Also, project works can be also part of the dynamic purchase system. Also, the Czech energy grid, when projecting 50 grid stations, they are also using it. So in the Czech Republic, I believe that the interpretation of common accessibility is so common that commonly accessible is anything, basically, or almost. For example, we had the maintenance of greenery in the dynamic purchase system, and the PPO said yes to it, that it is a regularly accessible service.
Some partial construction works also fell into this category. So it's a very broadly, IT services is something we've dealt with also during the Czech authority. had dealt with it at the same time, and they had an evolving opinion, first rejecting the notion, but later, when others used it, it ended up being at the second instance. The previous council changed the position, and I think the Czech Competition Protection Office also, DNS for body shopping or IT, it's not excluded to be contracted like this. And I know Vlado has a maybe different, more strict opinion about this. Try to say so. Well, in principle, as long as it's going to be a trend and it will be amended in the Act, there's no problem. But you need to understand the purpose of the DNS, the Dynamic Purchase System, or DPS, for a certain type of contract, because I think that DPS is not suitable for any type of contract, mainly due to the fact that at the time of creating or establishing the DPS, there are conditions defined in relation to specification identified, which frequently is very general. But as long as this is supposed to be the result going towards a more complex whole, it doesn't make much sense, because in terms of construction works and services, you need to obtain an entity capable of creating a system that we are purchasing, not its components. That's why it doesn't make sense to try and through IT roles to purchase the information system, because I simply need an entity responsible for the result. And there makes no sense to be opening partial competitions. I can better employ those people and assume the responsibility myself for the result. But I will not achieve that through DPS. This includes construction works. So I have no problem with that in principle, but it's important for the legal regulation in the future governing this to take into consideration the nature of the contracts and the purpose for which DPS is supposed to serve. Thank you very much indeed. We've made it to the very end of our session. You still have opportunity, if you want to ask a question on public procurement, which you think the four of us could perhaps respond to. Please go ahead now and do so. I'm not sure if someone's still interested in maybe sharing their opinion or making an observation on maybe a different topic. There's still one more question on the slide, though, so you can think of one, and if not, we'll just give a nice thank you through the entire conference. There's a slide question on the dynamic purchase system. What happens if someone will prove that we'll have property interconnected, different bidders somehow interconnected? The answer would be if there is any cartel limiting the Act actually has provisions for excluding such bidders, and if there will be no suspicion even to the anti-monopoly office, nothing preventing the purchaser to go ahead with this. I think it's an easily answered question. If you want to elaborate, we have the same in Czechia. The buyer should deal with this, but it's not prohibited to be bidding like this. We have a unique ID number for each bidder, and that's simple as it is. Very well, I'm gonna, of course, let's thank our panelists with a round of applause. Thank you for attending. And at the end, I'd like to, on behalf of the PPO, to thank all of you who have participated in our Christmas conference. We view this as something very positive, that we have room to meet, opportunity to meet with you and the buyers. And this year we've had a very high foreign guests as well, which we appreciate very much. And definitely, if there will be agreement of management in the future, we'd like to continue this. This has been a third such a larger two-day conference we've organized over the past year. And I also like to thank not every one of you as participants, but also to our colleagues who have very actively been involved in preparing the conference, because it's not an easy task, and These colleagues are turning into event managers, preparing all the details for you. It's not easy to put such a conference together for 200 people. So thank you very much, and we can all thank them through another round of applause. And once again, thank you very much to all of you, and wishing you really bon appetit of a lunch and a safe trip home. And we'll see you sometime again at the next activity organized by our PPO. Thank you very much again, and all the best in your jobs in public procurement over the coming year, 2025. And Merry Christmas, of course.